Greetings. In this video, we're going to have a look at how to workflow things inside of CRM. So if we go and expand all the different areas that we have in CRM, we can see that it is a vast and complex creature. So we've got hundreds, if not thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of different records in all these areas across the system. So the question then becomes, how do we break this down into usable chunks? So we need workflow lists, we need visibility lists for management purposes and oversight. There's all sorts of different ways that we need to break down the data in the system so that when people log into CRM first thing, they can basically have lists of everything it is that they need to do in different areas throughout CRM. So let's have a look now at different ways that we can break down our data. So I'll just refresh this page so I can get everything to contract. So the first thing you're going to want to do is come down to the admin area here, scroll down until you get to settings and then expand that area. So what you have in this settings area are all of the modules across CRM that have drop-down lists where you can go and customize the values that appear on those lists. So this is really important for a couple of reasons. First of all, you're getting your terminology into the system so that it's easy for your users to interact with. Second of all, it's going to make it really easy to slice and dice your data moving forward if you've got all the appropriate options in the system already. So to give you an example of how that works, I'll come halfway down and expand this activity section. If I click on call, you can see that I've got a couple of fields here that I can customize. Clicking on the type field, these are the existing options I have in the system already. So if we go and open up a new call record here, I can click here and we can see that the type options here are pulling from this list here. So I can go and add options to the list. I can set a default option. I can click on an existing option to edit it if I'd like to. I can move options up and down on the list. So I can use these arrows and I might push email to the top and then I'll push general up a little bit further too. And let's push follow up down. So coming in here and setting your preferences is going to make it really easy to segment your records in future. So I recommend taking the time to come through this settings area and deciding which areas you use, what's important to your business, and how you want to be able to classify, segment, and sort different records in the system. So once you've done that, there's a number of different ways that you can break down your data. So the first is using different view options. So across the top of the screen here, we've got different icons for different view selectors. So depending on where you are in CRM, these icons are going to be slightly different. So in companies, I've got list view, I've got map view, I've got Kanban view, and I've also got a merge duplicates view. If we jump to a different area of the system and I come into sales and let's have a look at orders, I can enable a calendar in here. I've got list view, I've got map view, I've got Kanban view, but I've also got a dashboard view on the end here. So you're able to switch between these different views to visualize your data in a number of different ways. Now the view that you're in currently will always show as this goldy yellowy sort of color. So in the case of orders, I'm in list view and it's basically literally just a list of records in the system. So let's quickly take a look at how some of the other views work. So we know what list view does. If we come into map view here, what we can do is if there is address information in that particular record, we can visualize all of our records on the map. So the further I zoom out, we can see little hotspots of activity. And even though hotspot's a dirty word these days, we're using it in a good context. So I can basically go and click on different areas of the map and then click on these pins to see where the orders or the customers or different types of records are located. The other option that we have is Kanban view. So this is why it's important to go and customize your different status options in that settings area of the system. So it's probably best if we have a look at this in opportunities because it's very, very useful for this particular area. So coming into Kanban view, what you can see is the stages that you can customize in your system will show here, and then the records will show according to their different stages. We can click on the gear icon over here to add and remove different stages from the view. We can also break down the records by who they're assigned to, as well as what their stage is. So this is handy because not only can we visualize the data in another way, but I can also quickly reassign records to different users or to different statuses just by grabbing one and dragging and dropping it into a new column. So I can quickly update the value of records that way. Coming back into the stage view, I can do the same thing and move this one from quote to not interested. I can take this one over here as qualified and say that they need to have a quote done. So I can basically drag and drop. In opportunities, there's an extra feature where if I grab a record, what you'll see at the bottom of the screen is that I can quickly mark an opportunity as lost, so it's not proceeding, or as won, or I can remove it from the system. So I can drag this record onto the appropriate option and then quickly go and win, lose, and reassign different opportunities between different stages, people, and statuses. If we go and have a look at map view when we're in companies, map view in this instance has a couple of extra features that aren't available in map view in other areas of the system. So we can see we've got list view, we've got Kanban view. Let's hop into map view here. So as well as being able to visualize all of our customer locations on a map and see which areas we're reaching and which ones we aren't. So there's my little map of Australia. What I can also do is click here. Let's zoom in on the Melbourne CBD and visualize my customers in this particular area. So I'll just zoom in a little bit closer so I can see which customers are in which locations. Now, what I can do from here is open up the calendar over on the left-hand side here. So I can do this for myself, I can do this for other users in the system. So I'll pick on Mike today and basically open up his calendar and move it to a couple of days ahead. So what I can do is send Mike out and about. So we'll send him out to see Smith Deli. I'll go and drag that onto the calendar in here, and that creates an appointment automatically. What I can then do is say, right, while he's in the area, let's go and see Fred's Coffee as well. And you'll see that as soon as I click on this, it says that it's basically 11 minutes away from the earlier meeting. So I don't want to set this meeting any earlier than 9:55 to give myself time to travel between the locations. So in that case, safety first, let's go and pop that one in at 10 o'clock. So I've got a little bit of a buffer. So I can keep going and dragging and dropping and basically build up an appointment calendar this way. Now, while Mike's in the area, I might send him out to do some prospecting on other businesses that we can potentially work with. So what I can do is click on the toolbar over on the side here and open up the lead search. So what we might want to search for is cafes in this particular area on the map. So I can type in my search criteria and hit search. So what that's just done is a Google lookup on any cafe within this particular area on the map. So you can see I've now got a number of little grey pins over here that I can click on each of them and find out what the name of the business is. I can also view all of the names on a list over here and click on one and it will bounce that particular little one up and down so I can see where it's located. So we'll pick this one and you can see I've got a little bouncing contact. So what I can do is quickly add one of these into the system. So if I click on solar again, I can add it and you'll see that it's changed the color of the pin from gray and it's gone and added them into the system as a company. So no manual data entry, that's all been done for me. And I can now go and book a meeting. So don't do it any earlier than 10:24. Let's go and pop that one in at 10:30 and we're off and running. So I can also click here to go straight through to that company record and see what it looks like. So it's brought in a logo, it's basically brought in publicly available information. So the name of the business, their phone number, their website, their address, etc. And all of that's come into the system and it's now ready to go and use. So a couple of fun things that you can do in map view in companies. Let's have a look at the merge duplicates view now. So this view is available in both companies and contacts. So what we can do is come in here and ask the system to identify potential duplicate records. So this could be based on a similar name, an ABN, a location, a phone number, an email address, etc. So I don't have any duplicates in the system, but if I did, they would appear here as a list and it would give me a reason why it thought they were duplicates. What I then have the opportunity to do is go, yes, they're duplicates, let's merge them together, or no, they should be separate, let's just ignore that and move on. So what I can do is see all the merge issues, I can see the history of mergers, I can see the history of what's been ignored in the system. So a really good way for basically going through and cleaning up your system to deduplicate your records. So the other way that you can do that is if we come into list view, and again, this is in companies and contacts, I can pick a couple of records and say, right, these are duplicates, and I can quickly click here to just merge those two particular records while I'm on the fly, or a couple of records, rather than doing an all system search. So that will work in both ways. So let's go and have a look at a dashboard view now. So if we come into the sales area and come into invoices, what we've got is we've got our list view, we've got our map view, we've got our Kanban view, and we've got another option on the end here called dashboard view. So I can click here to be able to visualize the data in a number of different ways. Now in the top right hand corner here, I can click to reveal a list of dashboards that I can open up. So I'll select this one for product unit sales, and that's giving me a nice little summary here. We'll go invoices by region, and note that for all of these dashboards, what you can do is click here to change the date range. So I've just clicked on this calendar year, and then I can go and set a custom period. I could do it on calendar years, financial years, or pick from one of the presets here in the system. So once I've got a dashboard up, it's interactive and I can click on different elements to drill down into the data. So for example, I can click here on Melbourne Metro and it will go and adjust this other graph to just show me information for Melbourne Metro. If I click here for Sydney, we'll see that the graph adjusts again. And let's go pick on South Australia. There we go. So there's a couple of different ways that we can break down this data. So this invoice summary one is particularly useful. So what it's doing is marking that out by salesperson, showing me that as a couple of different graphs and the product categories that I'm selling, the regions I'm selling to, and who my top customers are. So again, I can go and click on a number of different areas in the system to go and drill down into the data a little bit further. So dashboards are immensely useful. So anywhere you see that across the top, hop in and have a look at your different options and go and have a play around with the date ranges. So always remember that depending on where you are, come and have a look up the top and see which view selections are available to you and then have a play around with the different options there. The other way that we can see what's happening in CRM from a system level is to come down into the reporting area down here. So expanding this gives me the options for reports and dashboards. So if I come into dashboards here, this is basically showing me all of the dashboards from all of the places in CRM in one spot. So even though I can go and access them from the top of a screen using the dashboard icon selector here, I can also see all of the dashboards in the system from all sorts of areas from here. So this is an easy way to say, okay, I'd like to look up opportunity dashboards. So I can type in the source name here and just put in op, and that will show me anything related to an opportunity. So it's sometimes easier to have a search through this way to find what you're looking for. So what I can do is click on Opportunity Summary and go, yep, show me that dashboard and let's see what it looks like. So again, I can click up in the top corner here to go and change the date range. I can view this data and then I can start going and clicking on things to basically drill down into it a little bit further. If I particularly like this dashboard and will use it on a regular basis, I can go and add it to my favorites list over on the side here. So the favorites list are basically shortcuts to frequently accessed reports and dashboards. So it just saves you having to come back in and search for a report or dashboard that you played with before. So you can basically go and set things up to appear on your favorites list. So there's plenty of dashboards in the system to go and have a play around with and see how they operate. The other thing that we've got is a range of reports in the system. So again, we can go and search in the name. So I might want to look at particular invoice reports. So let's just bring up everything that's got the name invoice in it. So let's have a look at the daily sales profitability report. So what I can do is click on the preview button here, and that will open the report in a new tab. Now, reports are really good because what I can do is I can quickly go and export that to a PDF, to an Excel, to a Word file. I can quickly go and print it off, etc. And I can also play around with the different date ranges here. So what I can do is click on this little calendar to basically have those same date selectors that I had on the dashboard. So what we'll do is say, let's look up data for the previous year and let's resubmit that. And I've just gone and changed that and I didn't mean to. So let's go and do that again. Let's say the previous year and we'll now submit that and now I've got my data. So I can go and drill into it a little bit further. So different reports will have different options depending on what they're reporting on. So I can pick by sales regions. So let's say Melbourne Metro and the types of products that we're using. I'll say I want everything, customer groupings. I can go and pick those. I can go and pick industry types for my customers as well, and basically resubmit that and bring that information up. So depending on how long the report is, I can use these little buttons here to scroll through the various different pages. I can go and find data that I'm looking for. So there's a fair bit that we can do with reports. So the same as the dashboard, you can go and add this to your favorites list so you can quickly get back to it later. Now, one of the other benefits with reports is that we can go and set them to email out to people on a schedule. So I can click on the Create Schedule button here and then choose people that I need to receive this report. So let's go and add myself in there for starters. So Kieran at Torlemu, and let's go and pick on Mike Nash again. So I can go and bring him up here. So I can basically click on attendees to bring up that search box, or I can just start typing a name in here and it will also come up with options. So what we can do is set this report to be emailed out as either a PDF, an Excel spreadsheet, or a CSV. So I can basically pick the format that I'd like it to be attached in. I then choose the frequency of how often I'd like this email to be sent out. So do I want that daily, weekly, or monthly? So I'll leave that at weekly and say, right, every Monday morning at, let's say it's 8:30, I want you to email this report to Mike and myself, and I can go and put some notes in here about opening and reading the report. So this is a really quick way to automate the process so that I don't have to remember to email this report out on a regular basis. So far we've looked at how to visualize our data in a number of different ways and how to look at some reporting in the system. So let's have a look at how we go and workflow all of the records inside of the system. So no matter where you are in CRM, the key to workflow is filters and layouts. So all over the system, you're going to want to set up different filters that drill down the data to display exactly what you want, and then a layout will show you the data how you want to see it. So basically, filters and layouts, filters will work in a number of different view scenarios. So I can apply a filter to a map, to a Kanban view, etc. A layout will only work when it's in this list or grid view here. So just know that whenever you open up a screen and you're in list view, what you see here is completely customizable. So what you can do is grab a column and basically go and move it into a new position. So I can go and reposition that wherever I'd like to. I can also click on this gear icon for columns and go and hide columns from view very quickly. So I can basically just click on the eye. I can click again here and bring up the column chooser. So what this lets me do is access a range of other different columns that I can add into this layout. So let's bring over total quotes, total quote amounts. Let's also bring over the, what else have we got? The first invoice date, first quote date. We'll bring that over and I can hit apply, and then all of those columns will be added to my view. So again, once they're added to the view, I can go and drag them into different positions. So I can basically grab a column and then go and move it to a new location. I can go and sort the column. So I can click in a column to sort it ascending and I get a little arrow here, or I can click again to change the direction of the arrow to sort things descending. Now, depending on the type of data that's in the field, you'll have different search options. So what we can do is type into a box and search for specific criteria. So I've got a company here that meets that. If it's to do with a dollar value field, what I can do is click here and basically choose any one of these rules and say, okay, I'm looking for amounts that are greater than $5,000, hit enter, and the system will go on and sort of drill down into that for me. I can also say that the lifecycle stage has to equal a lead and basically bring up that list. For date fields, I can click here on the little filter button, and the same as I was doing with reporting, I can basically say, okay, I'd like to see quotes this month. So anyone that had a first quote date of this month. And let's see if anyone has a first quote date of this year, and I've got 12 records. So you can always click on this little filter icon, this funnel here, to get more options. You can type directly into these boxes. But what you can do is you're probably going to want different layouts and different configurations of columns depending on the data that you're looking at. So we allow you to save multiple layouts into the system. So the same way as filters, you can have a layout that is shared with other users, or you can have some that are private and only the creator of the layout can see that. So I've got a basic company view layout here that I can deploy at any time that I'd like. I've also got another one here for a customer layout. So I can basically switch between these layouts as I want to. So creating a layout is a fairly simple process. Once I've added and removed all the columns that I want and gone and added them, put them into new positions, etc., I can come over next to this layout box and click on the new button. I can then give this layout a name. So I'll call that my Thursday layout. And then I can choose whether or not I'm going to share this with other users. So in this case I will, and I'll click OK. So that layout is now available to select from this list. So you can see I can scroll down here and go and select that Thursday layout any particular time I want to bring that up in the system. So layouts are a really good way for breaking down how you want to see the data and what's most important to you. So you should be combining these with filters. So filters let us set particular criteria for records that we want to see. So this makes it really easy to drill down into our data. So to create a new filter, we come over here next to the filter box and click on the little funnel icon and then click New. So we can give the filter a name just the same way that we did with a layout. So in this case, I might want to see all of my customers in Western Australia, and I can choose whether or not that filter is shared with other users or whether it's just a private one. So it's highly likely that pretty much everyone will want a list of customers, so I'm going to make this a shared filter. So what I then need to do is give the system criteria that records need to meet to be a part of this particular filter. So the first thing I want to do is sort by the life cycle stage. So I've got an option in the system that's for customer. So I basically want to make the first check that the record is for a customer. I can then click here to go and add another condition into the system, and I'll basically want to have a look at the physical state that they're located in. So I can click here for state and come down to physical address state and basically say that that needs to equal Western Australia. I can go and add an extra qualifier on here and say that I also want to make sure that the record is active as well. So you can see how you can be pretty detailed and keep going and adding different conditions into the system. What you can also do is have different groups of conditions. So I could start a second group here. So the system will run these first and then come and run the second group. What I can also do is change a condition from an and to an or. Just by clicking on this button, I've changed it to or and back to and again. So with an and condition, the system checks if the life cycle stage equals customer and the state equals Western Australia and the record is active. If I chose an or condition instead, it could meet any one of these three conditions, but in this case, I'd like it to meet all three. So I can be really detailed about the data that I'm pulling out of the system. So once I hit OK, that's going to go and save that filter, and we can see that I've got 8 records that match that result. So anytime I want to see my customers in Western Australia, I can just come here and select that filter and bring it up. So with filters, there's a couple of little tricks to them as well. So when we're creating a filter in the system, what we've got access to is a range of different fields associated with the record that we're working with. So for example, companies. But if we come right down the bottom to the bottom of the list here, there's an area here called rules. So what this lets you do is create a filter essentially within a filter. So things get a little bit Inception-like here. So what we can do is pick from some predefined rules that make it a little bit easier to build a filter. So in this case, I'm going to use the rule for included in list. So I either want it to match or not match a specific condition. So in this case, I want to say that I want everybody to match being a member of this new list here. I can then go and work with other rules to basically drill down into the data a little bit further. So I've also got some helpful rules here for meetings within the last couple of days, sales orders created within, let's say, 365 days or 30 days, etc. So I can always use rules to be able to get a little bit deeper into the data in the system. So there's a lot that you can do with filters. So what you need to do is basically think about what you want to see in CRM every day. So the areas of CRM that I use heavily, I've gone and set up filters and layouts. So every morning I can come into tickets and go, right, this is my list today, and this is the layout that I want to use to see it. These are the quotes I have to send, these are the invoices that I need to send, etc. So let's have a look at some more examples. So in invoices here, what I've got is a filter to show me all of the paid invoices. I can also pull up all of the partially paid invoices quickly. I can also see all of the unpaid invoices in the system. So I've got 90 of those, and I've got a couple of different layouts here to combine it with. So I've got an unpaid invoice filter, and I've also got an unpaid invoice layout. Because depending on whether I'm looking at paid or unpaid invoices, I'm probably going to want to see a different configuration of columns. So you can see how all over the system, let's have a look at outbound shipments as an example. Another one, in here I've got a filter for show me all of my orders to be picked, show me all of the orders that have been packed. So I've got 10 of those. Show me all of the orders that have been picked, show me all of the orders that have been shipped. So I can quickly bring up workflow lists and basically churn through those lists each day, or quickly see where batches of records are up to in the process or which stage they're up to, etc. So filters and layouts are of extreme importance all over the system because it's going to allow you to slice and dice your data and come up with neat workflow lists. So also note that when you're working with data, as well as viewing it inside CRM with different view options, different filters, different layouts, etc., you can always come up, and in most areas, there is this little Excel button here underneath your username, and you can quickly export anything that you've got in the system at the moment. So in this particular view, I've got 56 records and I've got these 5 columns. So I could just quickly export all of that out to an Excel spreadsheet if I wanted to by clicking on Excel and then clicking that button there. Another important thing to note is in this calendar and activity area here, this area called calendar is basically a central repository of every activity from all over CRM. So all of your meetings, tasks, emails, notes, work order production steps, everything is in this section of the system. So this is another area that you're going to want to break down with filters and layouts so that you can see all the emails you sent today, all the calls that were made that were inbound or outbound, meetings that were held today or this month or this week, etc. So there's a lot of different ways that you can break down your data. So I hope you found this useful. You can also view the video on setting up different notifications and reminders inside of CRM, because that's also going to help you once you've created your workflow list in the system. So thanks for coming along.